Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She said it the night before, almost offhand. Just be there. Okay? I don't need anything else. Just your support. I remember the way she looked at me when she said it. Like I was the steady one. Like I was her anchor. I took that seriously. I always did. So I put on the suit she liked, polished my shoes, even let her fix the fold on my pocket square. She smiled at that, kissed my cheek, said I looked classic. What she really meant was invisible. The venue was sleek. Open bar. Dim lighting. Waiters moving between clusters of laughter. Everyone there looked like they were chasing something: promotions, approval, someone else's attention. And in the middle of it all, her. Madison. Bright. Laughing. Effortless in a black dress that said ambition more than celebration. She worked the room like she belonged to everyone in it. And I didn't. We walked in together. But that's where it ended. No hand on my arm. No introduction. No, this is Mark, by the way. Nothing. She slipped into the crowd, offering tight smiles and practiced charm to people I didn't know. And I stood there, coat draped over one arm, drink in the other, watching her pour energy into everyone but me. The first red flag wasn't loud. It was quiet. A woman from HR, name tag crooked, leaned in near the appetizers. You're her date? I thought you were the boss she's always talking about. Then a laugh, awkward. Like she just realized she said too much. Later, I caught a glimpse of Madison at the edge of the room, standing close, too close, to her department lead. He touched her arm briefly. She didn't move, just kept laughing. I watched her light up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Not at home. Not with me. And in that moment, I felt it. That slow, sinking feeling. Not jealousy. Not even betrayal. Something colder. Irrelevance. I became background noise in a night I was asked to be present for. The speeches started. I stayed for 2. Maybe 3. Clapped when others clapped. Smiled when it felt appropriate. But by the time the 4th person took the mic, I realized she hadn't looked for me once. Not even once. No eye contact. No glance. No check-in. So I left. No announcement. No text. Just walked out the same way I walked in, alone. No one stopped me. No one noticed. The air outside felt better than anything in that room. I didn't go home. I drove to my brother's place. Sat in his driveway for 20 minutes before calling. He didn't ask questions. Just opened the door and handed me a beer. We watched a late game in silence. When I finally spoke, it wasn't about her. It was about me. I don't think I've existed in that relationship for a long time. He didn't say much. Just nodded and said, "Then maybe it's time to stop showing up like you do." That night, I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat on his couch and realized how far I'd faded. And the worst part? She never even texted to ask where I went. The next morning, I woke up on my brother's couch. There was no hangover. Just heaviness. A kind of weight that sits behind your ribs when something unspoken finally turns into something undeniable. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. Not even a casual "where'd you go?" She'd noticed. Of course she had. But the silence said more than any message could. She didn't ask, because she didn't want to hear the answer. And I wasn't going to offer one. I drove home around noon. The house was quiet. Too clean. Like no one had lived in it the night before. Her purse was on the table. Keys beside it. A half-finished cup of coffee from some trendy place downtown. Still warm. She was in the bedroom. Still in her business dress. Jacket folded over the chair. She turned when she saw me. No panic. No guilt. Just slight surprise, like she'd forgotten I existed for a full 24 hours. "Hey," she said. "Did you leave early?" I didn't respond right away. She stood there holding a bottle of my cellar water, like we were in the middle of a conversation that had never really started. It got loud. I finally said. Didn't want to get in the way. She tilted her head slightly, reading between the lines, but said nothing. No apology. No explanation. Just, I didn't even realize. Sorry if you felt off. Felt off? That's what it was to her. A vibe. A moment. Not a wound. Not a fracture. And suddenly, everything made sense. It wasn't a bad night. It was a pattern. I hadn't been her partner in a long time. I'd been furniture. An accessory. The man who holds the coat and drives her home after the spotlight dims. So I started doing what furniture never does. I moved. Subtle at first. I stopped asking how her meetings went. Stopped leaving dinner warm in the oven. No more checking if she wanted coffee before I brewed mine. I wasn't cold. Just quiet. She noticed. By the third day, she tried to close the distance. Started mentioning me in passing stories again. Smiled more. Made jokes she hadn't used in months. Wore that same perfume from the company event on a Tuesday. But it was too late. I had already stepped off the emotional leash. And she was tugging on air. One night, she tried to cuddle up next to me on the couch. Something in a rom-com made her laugh, and she leaned in, hand brushing mine. I didn't flinch. I didn't move. I just stayed still, eyes on the screen. She shifted back a few inches. Didn't try again. And for the first time, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. Just clarity. The kind you only get when your heart stops screaming for something that keeps starving you. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of anger. Out of honesty. I needed space from the illusion of closeness we kept faking. She didn't ask why. She just said goodnight through the wall. Like that's what we were now. Neighbors. The next week passed like a rehearsal for separation. We still lived in the same house. Slept under the same roof. But we were already gone from each other. She started making little efforts. Waking up earlier. Wearing makeup on mornings she usually didn't. Asking what I wanted for dinner, even though she hadn't cooked in months. But it all felt delayed, like she was reacting to something she couldn't name. She didn't know I'd already left in the only way that mattered mentally. I started getting home later. Said it was work. It wasn't. Sometimes I sat in my car for an hour, just letting music play. Sometimes I drove to a coffee shop across town and just watched strangers live lives that didn't feel as scripted as mine had become. The more space I created, the more she filled it with gestures. She texted more. Left post-it notes on the fridge, hope your day's good. Once, she made lasagna. My favorite. I ate in silence. Washed my plate. Didn't comment. She watched me like she was waiting for a punchline. But there wasn't one. Because nothing dramatic had happened. No affair. No shouting match. No breaking point. Just the slow realization that I'd become invisible, and now I liked it that way. The tipping moment came midweek. She came home late. Claimed it was a networking happy hour. I didn't ask who was there. I didn't ask what time it ended. I just nodded, said, cool, and kept folding laundry. That threw her. You're not going to ask what happened, she said. I looked up. Calm. Steady. Would it change anything? She opened her mouth, then closed it. That night, she tried to initiate something physical. Slipped into bed in nothing but one of my old shirts. Reached for my arm. Whispered my name. But I wasn't there anymore. Not in the way she needed me to be. I turned slightly and said, not tonight. I'm tired. Which was true. I wasn't angry. Just empty. And that emptiness? She finally felt it. For the first time in a long time, she looked unsure. Not angry. Not cold. Just lost. But I wasn't going to guide her back. Because I had no interest in returning to a place where I was only needed when convenient. She'd spent months choosing attention over connection. Now she could sit in what she created. And I could breathe again. It wasn't her who finally said it. It was someone I didn't even know. Friday night. Another work thing. Smaller. Drinks at a rooftop bar hosted by her company. She asked me to come. Said it would look good. I didn't ask for who. I showed up. Neutral. Clean shirt. Quiet presence. This time, I didn't expect to be introduced. I'd already accepted what I was in her world, background. She moved fast. Hugged people. Laughed too loud. Held a glass of white wine like it was an accessory. I stood off to the side, watching the city lights pulse across glass windows. The view was better than the conversation I wasn't part of. And then someone stepped next to me. A guy I'd never met. Older. Short beard. Looked like he'd been through 2 divorces and stopped pretending to enjoy events like this. He offered me a drink. You look like you could use one, he said. Long night? I smirked. Something like that. He nodded toward Madison across the terrace. You here with her? I nodded. Girlfriend? Yeah. He blinked. Genuinely surprised. Sorry, I thought she was with the guy from her team. What's his name? Nate. He said it casually. No agenda. No malice. Just observation. But it landed like a brick. Not because he said something new, but because it confirmed everything I'd been trying not to name. To outsiders, she didn't look taken. She looked available. And I looked alone. I didn't react. Just thanked him for the drink and walked away. She was still laughing with Nate when I passed by. Still leaning in. Still placing her hand lightly on his arm. I didn't interrupt. I just left. Again. This time she noticed. I felt her eyes follow me as I walked toward the elevator. But she didn't stop me. Didn't excuse herself. Didn't call out. And that silence said more than she ever had. By the time I got home, I had no anger left. Only certainty. I sat at the kitchen table, opened a drawer, pulled out a duffel bag. Not to leave. Not yet. But to prepare. Not for a fight. For freedom. The next morning, I didn't come home. No note. No warning. Just absence. I packed light. A change of clothes, charger, toothbrush. My brother's place again. Familiar couch. No questions. He handed me a coffee and turned on a game. That was enough. I wasn't running. I wasn't punishing her. I was reintroducing myself to what peace sounded like. My phone buzzed around 10 a.m. Hey, where'd you go last night? You left without saying anything. Is everything okay? 3 texts. Back to back. I didn't answer. She followed up with a voice note, barely 10 seconds. Her voice was soft, cautious. If you're upset about something. I didn't mean to upset you. Let's talk when you get back. No apology. Just confusion wrapped in control. She wasn't used to silence from me. She was used to my questions, my invitations to connect, my willingness to come back. But this time, I wasn't making space. I was occupying my own. I spent the day doing nothing. Walked through a park. Bought a sandwich. Read half a chapter of a book I'd been too busy to open for months. No pressure. No updates. No explanations. And I didn't miss her. That's what struck me. I wasn't aching to return. I wasn't imagining her waiting. I was just free. When I finally turned my phone back on that evening, I saw the last message. I don't know what's going on with you lately, but this disappearing thing? It's not okay. Not we. Not us. Just you. She didn't ask what she might have done. Only what I was doing wrong by leaving. That's when I knew we weren't broken, we were done. And only one of us realized it. I stayed gone one more night. Not to prove a point, but because I liked who I was when she wasn't watching. The man she left in the corner of crowded rooms was gone, and in his place was someone who no longer needed her recognition to feel seen. I came home Sunday morning. She was in the kitchen, pretending not to flinch at the sound of the front door. Still in her sleep shirt, stirring coffee like it was just another slow weekend. She glanced up. You didn't come home. I nodded. Yeah. No lie. No excuse. Just fact. She waited for more. An apology. An explanation. A fight. I gave her none of it. I walked past her. Into the bedroom. Opened the closet. Pulled out her green duffel bag, the one she used for yoga retreats, girls' weekends, curated escapes that never included me. I placed it on the bed and began folding. Not tossing. Not rushing. Just calmly, quietly, removing her presence from my space. T-shirts. Sweaters. A framed photo she kept on the dresser. She came in halfway through, arms crossed. What are you doing? I didn't look up. Packing. Why? Because I can't keep pretending this is working. Silence. She stepped closer. You're overreacting. That word again. Overreacting. As if silence was an emotion. As if detachment was a tantrum. I asked you to support me, she said. And I did, I replied. But supporting you doesn't mean erasing myself. Her face tightened. No more confusion. Just a glimpse of fear. Not because I was angry. Because I wasn't. I zipped the bag. Set it beside the door. Walked back in. Opened the drawer where we kept shared keys, gym tags, old movie stubs. Took out the spare to my apartment. Set it on the table. She followed me with her eyes. Still waiting for a blow-up. Still hoping for a scene she could twist into guilt. But there was nothing dramatic here. Only a man who realized the silence she gave him was the permission he needed to go. I'll stay with Maya tonight, she muttered. You don't have to explain. She blinked at that. Like she didn't expect kindness. But it wasn't kindness. It was distance. And by now, it was permanent. She left with her duffel bag slung over one shoulder and a stiff goodbye. No drama. No fight. Just the sound of the door closing with a little more weight than usual. I sat on the edge of the bed, not out of sadness, but out of stillness. The kind that comes when your body catches up to a decision your heart made weeks ago. 20 minutes later, my phone lit up. I just needed space to think. I didn't mean to make you feel like you didn't matter. No question. No apology. Just soft phrasing designed to keep the power balanced. I didn't respond. Another ping. I was overwhelmed that night. I didn't know how to include you without making it awkward with work stuff. Still not about me. Still not about us. Just justifications from a woman who couldn't say. I pushed you away, and now you're gone. The next one came at midnight. A voice note this time. I didn't listen to it. Just watched the waveform play in silence until it expired on the lock screen. She thought she could reset the damage with softness. What she didn't understand was it. Softness doesn't fix disrespect. The next morning, I went through the house with new eyes. Pulled down photos. Removed her mugs from the cabinet. Stripped the bed. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like subtraction. And every item I moved out made the place feel more like mine. Later that afternoon, I got a message from a friend of hers. Casual. Passive. She's not doing well. You should at least talk. I didn't reply. People always rush to defend the person who cries first. But pain isn't proof of innocence. And silence doesn't mean guilt. That night, she sent one more line. If you want me to come back, just say it. I stared at the screen. Not in hesitation. In disbelief. She really thought the choice still belonged to her. So I typed 2 words. Don't bother. And hit send. No punctuation. No emotion. Just the truth. By the time she realized what she'd lost, I was already someone she couldn't reach. She showed up 2 days later. Same black blazer from the night of the party. Hair tied back tight. That familiar floral scent trailing behind her like it still had power. I opened the door. She didn't smile. Just stepped in, slow. Like she was testing the air for what version of me she'd find. I know I pushed too far, she said. I didn't think you'd actually pack my things. I didn't answer. Just moved aside and let her walk through what used to be our home. She stopped at the bookshelf. Her photos were gone. Her scarf, once draped over the coat rack, missing. She noticed. You cleared everything? I nodded. You made it easy. Her mouth opened like she might argue, then closed again. She paced, picked at her sleeve, looked for something to latch onto. I didn't cheat on you, Mark. Still trying to define the damage by what it wasn't. I didn't say you did. That stopped her. She looked confused. Lost. Because for her, betrayal had to be loud to count. Physical. Crossed lines and lipstick stains. But what she'd done was quieter. Subtle. Social. Publicly erasing me until I erased myself. She sat down. So this is it? It was it weeks ago. She blinked fast. No tears yet. Just the first ripple of panic. I just got caught up in things. Work. The pressure. I didn't think you'd walk away. That part was honest. And cruel in its own way. She didn't think I had it in me. She thought I'd keep bending, breaking, waiting. But I was done waiting. Yesterday, I said, you chose who to stand beside. Today, I do the same. That broke the silence in a way no shouting ever could. She looked at the floor. At her hands. Anywhere but me. You were always good to me, she said. I know. I didn't think I'd miss you this much. You don't miss me, I said. You miss control. She flinched. Not hard. Just enough to confirm it. I stood up and opened the door. Whatever you came here looking for, it's gone. She didn't move at first. But eventually she stood. Walked past me. No hug. No plea. Just a woman leaving a place that no longer waited for her. She paused in the doorway. Will I ever see you again? Maybe, I said. But not like this. And then the door shut. Not slammed. Just closed. Clean. Final. After she walked out, the silence wasn't heavy. It was clean. I didn't check my phone waiting for her to say more. I didn't scroll through old photos. I didn't replay our last conversation in my head, wondering if I'd gone too far. I just existed. Peacefully. She sent 2 messages over the next few days. I understand now. I just didn't know how far I'd pushed you. Then later. I'll stop texting. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Not out of anger. But because some things don't need to be reopened. She made her choices in rooms full of people. I made mine in a quiet house that finally felt like mine. The strangest part? There was no pain left. Just clarity. Just space. Just a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. I stopped thinking in terms of what was lost. I started noticing what returned. Sleep. Focus. That sense of control that doesn't come from power, but from peace. I saw her once from a distance, walking out of a grocery store. Hair messy. Sunglasses on. Holding a bag with one hand and her phone in the other. She didn't see me, and I didn't feel the urge to wave. Or hide. Or change direction. I just watched her disappear into the flow of traffic, another person with somewhere else to be. That was the moment I knew. Closure wasn't a conversation. It wasn't an apology. It was the absence of need. When you can see them again and not feel anything pulling you back. A friend asked me later, "Do you still love her?" I thought about it. And then I said, "I don't even remember who I was when I did." Because that's what happens when the echo dies. You stop looking back, and you start moving forward for real. There was no final message. No dramatic monologue. No, please don't forget me. Just silence. On her end this time. She stopped reaching out, and I didn't notice right away. Because I had moved on, not to someone else, but to myself. I started doing things I hadn't in years. Booked a trip with no itinerary. Just me, a rented cabin, and 3 days of cold air and no cell service. Read entire books. Cooked full meals. Went to sleep without replaying old conversations in my head. That kind of quiet doesn't come easy. You have to earn it. And I did. There were no rebound nights. No half-hearted dates. I didn't need to prove I'd recovered. I didn't need to perform healing. I was just living it. I cleaned out the last drawer she used in my place. It had one of her scarves in it. A necklace I bought her 2 birthdays ago. And a note I didn't remember her writing. Something short, scribbled in the margin of a grocery list. Pick up almond milk. Love you always. I looked at it for a second, then folded it once and dropped it in the trash. No ritual. No burn the past moment. Just the quiet decision to let it stay behind. Sometimes people ask if we talk now. If we ever reconnected. We didn't. She exists somewhere in the same city. A few train stops away. But in a different world now. And I like it that way. Because walking away didn't mean I hated her. It meant I loved myself more than the version of me who tolerated disappearing in front of someone else's spotlight. If she ever thinks about me, I hope it's not with bitterness. I hope it's with silence. The kind that makes a person realize. Not everyone yells when they've had enough. Some of us just leave. Quietly. Cleanly. Completely. And when we do, we don't look back. Been through it. When they crossed a line, and you made sure they felt it.